Live. Hi, you guys. It's me, Lonnie Clark. That's for art. Man, that lipstick looks super dark. Oh, well. Look, I scheduled for 15 minutes from now to read the other book that I'm reading to you, Dr. Caldicott's book, The New Nuclear Danger, because I really want to read this book some more. So I decided I was going to read this anyways. So let me get right to it. This is Dr. Karl Grossman's book, Weapons in Space, the Open Media Pamphlet Series. And I never really read that. It's number 19 in the Open Media Pamphlet Series. It's 2001, 7 Stories Press. So here we are on page 52, first paragraph down. Combat on the moon is discussed with observation. Oh, let's read that. Let's go back and read the last chapter, in case not the chapter, but the last paragraph, as I want to do. You ready? Military bases on the moon would not only defend the mining operations, but would take advantage of what military space forces call the gravity well of Earth. This is described as a channel in space between the moon and Earth. Space forces at the bottom of the Earth's so-called gravity well are poorly positioned to accomplish offensive, defensive, and deterrent missions because great energy is needed to overcome gravity during launch. Excuse me, I apologize. I lost my space here. Let me read that again. Military space forces at the bottom of Earth's so-called gravity well are poorly positioned to accomplish offensive, defensive, deterrent missions because great energy is needed to overcome gravity during launch. It says, but forces at the top on the moon could act more rapidly. Simply put, it takes less energy to drop objects down a well than to cast them out. Forces at the top also enjoy more maneuvering and greater reaction time. A map of the best site on the moon from which the U.S. could take military advantage of this gravity well is provided, and the work stresses that U.S. armed forces might lie in wait at that location to hijack rival shipments. I read that twice last night. I couldn't believe they said that. Armed forces might lie in wait. U.S. armed forces might lie in wait at that location to hijack rival shipments of materials mined by other nations. The U.S., according to this congressionally offered plan, would engage in piracy in space. Now, that's not the America that I'm from. I don't know who these people were, and this was written in what, 1987, they said, right? 1999. You know, it was in June of 1987. Congressional Research Service of the Congress of Library. This is called the Congressional Introduction declares. This was done by, let me see what the title of it was. Yes, the Congressional Introduction. Space forces, military space forces, the next 50 years. And this is what the Congress suggested. The U.S., according to this congressionally authored panel, would engage in piracy in space. I guess I'm not going to get too far, am I? Combat on the moon is discussed with the observation lunar foxholes would provide better cover than terrestrial counterparts because the absence of air confines blasts to much smaller areas. Military Space Forces examines space weapons and states that nuclear weapons have a drawback. Nuclear weapons detonated in an atmosphere could create shock waves, violent winds, and intense heat that can inflict severe damage and casualties well beyond the hypocenter. But in space, winds never blow in a vacuum. Shock waves cannot develop, and neither fireballs nor superheated surrounding air development above 65 miles. Consequently, it would take direct hits or near misses to achieve required results with a nuclear blast and thermal radiation. On the other hand, space is a nearly perfect laser environment because light propagates unimpeded in a vacuum, it says. Wow. Laser weapons, regardless of type, gas, chemical, excimer, free electron, solid state, X-ray, concentrate a tightly focused shaft or pulse of radiant energy photons on the target surface. Military Space Forces explains. That's the name of the book. Military Space Forces explains. The beam burns through. The book also examines the use of chemical and biological warfare in space and states self-contained biospheres in space accord a superlative environment for chemical and biological warfare. Clandestine operations could dispense lethal or incapacitating CW/BW agents rapidly and uniformly through enemy facilities. I don't know what CW and BW means, but I'm sure you guys do. Conventional weapons and biological weapons. There we go. Conventional weapons would have their place too, it says, pointing out that high-speed birdshot could seriously damage most space facilities which are strong enough to maintain structural integrity and repel micrometeoroids, but not much more. As to the UN Charter seeking a peaceful and friendly international relations, the Outer Space Treaty designating space as a place where exploration and other endeavors shall be carried out for the benefit of all mankind, and the Moon Agreement of 1979 saying neither the surface nor the subsurface of the moon or other celestial bodies within the solar system shall become the property of any person or state, Military Space Force declares. The strength of such convictions will be tested when economic competition quickens in space. Parties that hope to satisfy economic interests in space must maintain ready access to resources on Moon and beyond, despite opposition if necessary, and perhaps deny access to competitors, it says. Wow. Let's see. I think we're about 15 minutes in. I didn't even see the clock. Hold on. Oh, I got 5 minutes. Yay. I'll keep reading. A good way to keep other nations from engaging in space militarily, it goes on, is to control attitudes in other countries. Control over elitists and popular opinions, using inexpensive psychological operations as a non-lethal weapon system. I'm about to spit nails again, you guys. This is unbelievable. That people would even type these words is just beyond comprehension. And this is in a congressionally endorsed document. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's go back to what they're suggesting. Control attitudes. Control over elitist and popular opinions using inexpensive psychological operations as a non-lethal weapon system could convince rivals that it would be useless to start or continue military space programs, it says. That's kind of what they do with the voting. They convince everybody it's not worth it. The basic objective would be to deprive opponents of freedom of action while preserving it for oneself. Senior national executives, legislators, members of the mass media, and through them, the body politic, would be typical targets. I I think this is mission accomplished. I think we're actually seeing this in action right now, folks, don't you? Meanwhile, for the U.S., superiority in space could culminate in a bloodless total victory. Cha-ching! If lagging powers could neither cope nor catch up with technology. As examples of the advantages of waging war from space, Collins states that, quote, naval surface ships comprise, unquote, a particularly inviting target category. Former astronaut Michael Collins, who has been there and back twice, believes space is an ideal place from which to attack aircraft carriers and other major surface combatants. And strike forces on the moon could choose from a full range of offensive maneuvers. They got some big plans going on here. I wonder what we really don't know about. Like, we think it's bad what they're doing to us. What about the stuff that we're not even aware they're doing? Military space, let me back to the book here. Military space forces also urges the use of nuclear power in space. Both plutonium-fueled radioisotope thermoelectric generators and nuclear reactors, which are, quote, the only known long-lived compact source able to support military space forces with electric power about 10 kilowatts and multi-kilowatts. Core no bigger than basketballs are able to produce up to 100 kilowatts, enough for housekeeping aboard space stations and at lunar outposts. Large versions could meet multi-megawatt needs in space-based lasers, neutral particle beams, mass drivers, and railguns. Among the endorsements featured on the back of military space forces are from then Senator Sam Nunn, a Georgia Democrat who stabbed us in the back many times, and chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, that says this book will be an indispensable starting point. And then Representative Len Aspen, a Wisconsin Democrat and later Secretary of Defense under Bill Clinton, stating, quote, no other military space study puts all the pieces of the puzzle together. General John W. Vesley, Jr., former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, states military space forces should be useful for decades. I guess so. God dang. Oh my God, you guys. I mean, it's been out there for years. We just never knew. Well, so there you go. Anyways, I am going to end here really quick. Put your courage feet on. Take some action. Actually, register to vote. I'm going to encourage people to register to vote because think about it. In America, 20%, maybe 25% of the eligible voters actually vote. That means that just like this, very inexpensive psychological mind games, they have actually convinced you it's not worth it for you to vote. So why bother? Just like this. Like, let's just convince them they can't win in space. How about if we just tell them, we basically, they did this on the population. Inexpensive psychological mind games. Anyways, I want to read Dr. Caldicott's book. I think I'm probably, 5 minutes late. Let me look at the time. Oh, it's just at 11 o'clock. Woohoo! Okay, you guys. We'll see you guys later. Put your courage feet on. Ciao.